artificial intelligence. It's nothing more than enabling you to search and access things better. So I think I strongly believe it's going to create new jobs. It's going to create more jobs. Internet
Correct.
created new jobs.
A very warm welcome to Legal Pay Startup Stories. Hailing through the crossroads of diverse industries and continents, we have Mr. Ratnesh Verma, the CEO of Pidge, a logistics company revolutionizing the crucial last mile delivery in India. Ratnesh's journey has been very unique and diverse, from starting from Stanford to huge hospitality giants like Hyatt, White Bread, and then this huge Indian logistics sector of last mile delivery. Your leadership has been impeccable because you have been dealing with such a huge boom of e-commerce, and I feel you're a very thoughtful leader, an entrepreneur who has an eye on future trends, and a mentor to budding stars in the tech and logistics space. So I think let's get ready for a conversation filled with insights, challenges, and more. Like, we would like to know more about your journey.
Uh, Thank you very much for that introduction, Sati. Happy to be on your podcast and happy to share insights.
Yeah, so my first question is, your background is quite diverse from countries, continents, and sectors as well. Like, you started with hospitality. So, what inspired you to start Pitch? What was the idea behind it?
Yeah, so we started Pitch with a problem statement, and the problem statement was really two problem statements. I mean, Pidge is very much what I would call a lab problem-driven startup. I mean, so we one of the things that I have been have been a part of on the other side as a consumer was just realizing why the delivery ecosystem in India has such silos and is it so broken. So just fast forwarding that, there were two very distinct data-driven problems that we started with. The first problem is, despite tens of billions of dollars coming in the delivery ecosystem, and despite tens of thousands of delivery companies that have emerged in the last 6 to 7 years, some still operating, some shut down, the question is that why are more people choosing to do their own delivery? Despite all the options available. I mean, that just defies any kind of market logic that you have more options, but you want to do it yourself. So just to quote a statistic here, there was, in 2017-18, 48% of the businesses were doing their own delivery. And in 2021, that number has become 67%. So, it's just like, you have more doctors, but you still want to treat yourself. I mean, it doesn't
Yeah.
make sense. The second problem statement, which as an experienced businessman, that I fail to understand is that why is in India, in the delivery ecosystem, for example, the unit economics is broken and everybody's just bleeding money and capital. Why is that the case? I mean, that's quite unusual. And I think this all kind of like manifests, Sadi, in terms of if you really look at India as a whole, is kind of like also struggling with last mile logistics and logistics as such in the Indian ecosystem. And that was the kind of like the starting point when I started to dive deeper into what the problems are. That, our logistics is about over 14-15% of the GDP, and the global average is less than 7%. It's just a reflection of the inefficiencies in the ecosystem. And it was really starting with that problem statement that we started unlayering and building Pitch. But our inspiration was the size of the problem. And it wasn't like, hey, we have a solution. It was more about, hey, we understand the problem and it's a huge problem. And I'm really proud to say where we have come in the last 5 years, we have addressed the problem very, very adequately.
I feel logistics, I feel the most important and the most crucial part is last mile logistics. That is where the customer also, or the consumer who like gets the product, gives a benefit, and on the basis of that, the entire idea is formulated around, or the services are being judged, like from a consumer's perspective. So, how do you deal with those challenges and cash on delivery, or any failed deliveries, or any kind of pain points that you come across?
Yeah, it's a great question because those are exactly the some of the challenges. Those are just so. Let's talk about COD, cash on delivery, which still, despite UPI and despite all the other digital payment
Net
methods,
banking, yes, yes,
it's
yes.
over 70% of all deliveries, and you can't ignore that. And we saw that as a problem, and most delivery companies, most businesses are still struggling with it. So we created a decentralized cash management module, which I'm really proud to say that on Pitch platform we have over 99.9% accuracy in terms of what's due and what's paid, and that is unprecedented. So we solved that problem. We took actual problems like COD that you mentioned, and we solved them through decentralized tech solutions. The other comment that you made about failed deliveries, the average data in terms of the failed deliveries, by 3PLs, especially in the e-commerce space, is over 20%. And we've demonstrated that we took it up to 94% on Pitch platform because we kind of like recognized why is a delivery failed. And I'll tell you why the delivery failed. Like when you get a notification on something that you order from any of the e-commerce marketplaces, the notification you get is your order is out for dispatch and it will be delivered between 9 a.m. and 7 p.m. Now you ask yourself and says, I'm not going to sit at home for 10 hours waiting for that order. So a lot of times you just say, okay, I'm going to do my work, etc. And then when the delivery guy comes suddenly at a time you're not at home and he has to go back, that's a failed delivery. And what if then we said, okay, how do we solve that? We solve that with real time tracking. We solve them with customizable alerts and notifications, AI driven, customized alerts, as I said. So we solve that in a different way. Then there was a problem with geocoding. I mean, in India, addresses are, Google Maps are great, but they're more street level and they're not at the address level. So we
Yes.
landed up, and that creates a lot of false addresses, which leads to a lot of failed deliveries. We built our geocoding engine, which is layered with multiple APIs, and we built over a 92% accuracy from an address point of view. So we built solutions for
Yeah.
actual problems like that. And what you articulated, COD and failed deliveries, are, I mean, those are just two of the many problems that we found and we solved for. But that's been our approach in solving that and making last mile logistics better because it's still 40% of total logistics cost.
Exactly. And I completely understand, and I'm really inspired by the solution that you came up, like as a replacement for Google Maps. And us being like working individuals, we are entirely reliant on e-commerce now. And we like look forward, and the market is booming right now. So how do you deal with like the challenges that come across in a lot of deliveries? Like there might be like manpower is less or anything of that sort. See, tech solutions, but with regards to like manpower, and do you face those problems, or what's the scenario there?
Look, I think
Continuing question. Huh.
yeah, so I think this manpower issue is kind of like misunderstood. The
Okay.
reason why you have a manpower issue is because of the way the ecosystem has built silos and has built layers. Now, if you can kind of like and I have this very very kind of like a inherent saying, which is like you don't cure a wound by putting four layers of band-aid on it, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So that's exactly what the ecosystem has become. And the incumbents today are trying to do more of the same rather than try and solve the problem. We took the approach of solving the problem. So let's take the manpower issue. Now, if you are a manpower that's dedicated to, let's say, a restaurant, and you're unidimensional, and you're busy on a Friday from Friday 6 p.m. to Sunday 9 p.m., and what are you doing for the rest of the time? And or if you are working with a kirana or with a pharmacy, what are you doing for the evening? Because most of the
Yeah,
deliveries.
correct.
So the solution to building all of this again comes back to tech, and we build hybrid interoperability. We're the only company that empowers and has been able to build the solution, tech solutions that enable hybrid interoperability. So that solves for the productivity issue. That solves for the manpower issue. The problem is not manpower. The problem is productivity. The
Correct.
problem is how they work, not how many people are there. And I think it's completely misunderstood, and we've solved it in a very, very different way. And as I said, the proof of the pudding is what we've been able to achieve from even hybrid interoperability point of view.
I think this is very inspiring, and people who look up or are with the idea. And I think tech has enabled a lot of things, and a lot of things have been simplified and can be done in a better way through tech. But with tech, there is something that it keeps developing, and a lot of trends come into picture, and a lot of questions and a lot of updates and developments. So, how do you feel you keep up with those trends, or Pitch keeps up with those trends? So,
I think the answer to that is exactly what I said earlier. We are not obsessed about the solution. We're obsessed about the problem. So we don't care about, the solutions will keep changing as
correct.
long as you're singularly focused on the problem. And I am very proud to say at Pidge, we focus on solving the problem. We're not focused on the solution, because what happens with most of the companies is that they are so obsessed with their solution because you're like, what a great idea. And they're obsessed with their solution. And then they're unable to unwed themselves to the solution. At Pidge, we are obsessed with the problem, and we keep improving ways to solve the problem. So for us, solving the problem is at the center of everything that we do. And if there is a better solution, then we adapt that better solution. We're very, we have in this past 5 years of our journey, we've made several pivots, very successful pivots. And the reason we made those pivots is because as we unlayered the problem, we realized it needs a different perspective. And today, where we've gotten to is an outcome of our ability to develop for the problem, not for the idea.
Correct. So, like a follow up question to this. So, it's a logistics field is a very competitive market. There are huge big names, and how would you measure sales performance, and like how would you track your growth towards your goals?
So I think depends on how you define your goals. The way I define goals for Page is very simple. We need to solve the problem for every single business that does delivery in India. That's that's the goal. Now we've been growing 2x quarter on quarter. We have seen exceptional adoption. We are a young startup. And I'm really proud to say that what we have built today from a repeatability point of view, we have very high level of stickiness. We have over 90% stickiness in terms of brand retention. So just what we have built, the stickiness, the growth that we have, and most importantly, we build a very sustainable business. I'm really proud to say that we're probably the only logistics company that in such a short duration is net margins positive. Of course, we're unit positive, gross margin positive, net margin positive, and have built a scalable, repeatable, and a sustainable business. That to me is success. And when we can take this to 60 million MSMEs, that to me would be a goal accomplished.
Since Legal Pay and Pidge's partnership is also very long and has been into pictures. So, what kind of issues that come across post delivery, or what would be your major point with regards to maybe services, or where do you feel that there's a problem from the MSME side, maybe?
I feel that in general, again, you learn there are obviously some incidents, and fortunately, we haven't been on the wrong side of it and on the receiving side of it. But sometimes you have startups that are existing one day and then cease to exist another day, and there's obviously an exposure on that front. In many ways, we solved for that by having our own closed wallet and just moving to a prepaid solution. But I think generally, with some MSMEs, who kind of like bite more than they can chew, there is generally a risk for anybody who's doing business with them. It's not
Correct,
just
correct, correct.
pitch, but it could be legal pay as well.
Yeah, correct, correct, correct. So I think I have discussed a lot about pain points. I will move to a different sector, which is marketing. Both of us are in the startup area, in the realm of startup, and marketing forms a very important part. And I've seen your website and everything. It looks very attractive. Do you have any suggestions or anything for young entrepreneurs, like maybe like us also, that how should we boom this marketing strategy and how should we move forward with it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So um, just my own insights, and I'm not a marketing guru, but I do understand branding, having created multiple brands from scratch and made them successful across the globe. Um, the most important thing is your proposition.
Okay.
It's not your product, it's not it's not your idea, it's your proposition. And a proposition is something that in kind of like what I explain to my team as well, is proposition is what are you doing to solve your customer's problem? How are you solving their pain points? And I think everything that you're hearing, Sadi, is just kind of like links back. For me, the problem is the most important element. So
Yes.
what am I doing to solve your problem? So same with legal pay, if you're able to effectively communicate what is the problem that you're solving, instead of saying, hey, I do this, and this, and I'll say, okay, that's fine. But if you tell me, hey, Ratnesh, I can solve this problem of yours. Now, when you tell me, Ratnesh, I can solve this problem of yours, you've got me hooked. And marketing is all about hook. But when you come and say, I can do this filing for you and I can do this compliance for you, and that you're selling me yourself. And
Yeah.
I think as human beings, we want to know, why should I adopt you? What are you doing for solving my pain point? How are you making my life better?
Exactly. Correct.
And that is the fundamental of marketing. That is irrefutable. That's the gold standard and fundamental. At Pitch, we sell proposition. We don't sell a product. I'm not going and saying, if I went to you, Sadi, and said, "Hey, we have an AI-driven geocoding engine. We have customized alerts and notification. We have the best fleet surveillance," and you're going to select so. Versus if I go and tell you, "Hey, I can cut down your cost by 20%. I can increase your revenue by 10%. Do you want to know how? This is how I'm going to do it. I will
Correct.
cut down the fraud that you have. I will cut down the productivity losses that you have. I will cut down your canceled orders that you have. Want to know more? This is how I'm going to do it." So it's really what you're communicating. And my starting point always is to know what the pain the customer is feeling and how the customer's life and business gets better because of Pitch.
This is the answer I was looking for. Amazing. Like, I'm genuinely very inspired. And like a follow up question to this. Herein, I feel target audience also like performs a major role. So, how do you, like, sometimes getting to that target audience also becomes very difficult, or getting in touch with them, or explaining through what you actually want to do for them, or like we were talking about the solution. and like stating the problem and then putting in the solution. So how do you think we should reach out to those not those targeted audience? How should that function?
I think again, Sadi, I feel people don't really understand their TG to start with. They don't understand their target group because as a business, as an offering, you can either be something for everyone or you can be everything for someone.
Okay.
What do you want to be? Now, we often forget that and we often start to reach out to literally everyone and we get lost. We get
Correct.
completely lost. I mean, it's like, and unfortunately, we're all surrounded by experts who will say, "Oh, why don't you talk to this person? Oh, why don't you go to this person?" And at that point in time, you start to distract yourself, and before you realize, you have just gone ahead, and your target audience has now just become an audience. It's not targeted anymore. So the whole concept of targeted groups, TGs or targeted audience, is to be very targeted on that. Don't be distracted. And the reason why people find it difficult to reach your TG is because they're distracted. Once you identify your TG and once you know who you're going after, it's not that hard.
Correct.
But going after everyone is hard because then your proposition is not sticking to them. They don't have the same pain. They don't relate to you. So that's why people say it's hard to get to them because you're talking to the wrong person.
So, a question which related to tech only, since
Mhm.
your tech is very, what do you say? I feel it. I'm very amazed by the tech. So, therefore, with regards to that, so how do you feel like about like what is the future of logistics and tech, since tech is something which is evolving, and with the boom of e-commerce right now, logistics is also something evolving. So how do you see as the future, and where is it going, how is the market going, and how do you plan on capitalizing on that? I would like to know that.
Sure. I think one simple sentence for me, the future is hybrid.
Yeah.
That's the starting point. You don't go from fossil fuel cars straight to EVs until you go through hybrid cars. And I don't want to, I mean, unfortunately, there's a lot of noise around this whole EV, but, to quote the chairman of Toyota, which said, like, look, we're going to focus on hybrid. So that you don't go from A to B without going through the whole transition of it. So for me, future is hybrid. Now, the reason I say future is hybrid is, and the future changes very, very quick. So
Correct.
what used to be, let's say when Intel probably launched their first chip, a generation used to be 1 year or 18 months. Today, it's literally 6 months or 3 months. So the future is changing very quick. So when I talk about future is hybrid, I'm not talking about 10 years. I'm talking about 3 years, 4 years. That's it. That's no more because, and until and unless you're going to be able to adapt to the next phase of that evolution, you're going to become irrelevant. So for us, we think in bites of 3 years. We look at what the future is. To me, the next 3 years is all about interoperability. It's all about building efficiencies. It's all about building sustainability. That's what the next 3 years for me look like. And once we can create efficiency in this ecosystem, there's a lot of low-hanging fruits.
Yeah.
That's what's important at this stage. How do we bring down India's logistics from 14% of the GDP to 12%, to 11%? Okay, we'll get to 8% eventually, but you don't go from 14 to 8 like this. You go
Yeah.
14, 12, etc. So for me, future is hybrid. That's number one. And technology plays a very important role in solving the problem. So again, to me, the tech stack may continue to change. New technologies may be available. So people are talking about, generative AI. Of course, it's going to make things better and faster. Your coding and your coding accuracy and timelines will completely change for sure. Your ability to develop the right products is going to get much faster, and that will shrink the size of the generation as well. But hey, don't lose sight of the problem.
Yeah, correct.
So everything that you're building for, you're not showing off, what your technology is. You're showing off how well your technology solves the problem that you're trying to solve.
Correct. Absolutely correct. So, I think we've discussed a lot about pitch. I would like to know more about you also.
Sure.
So, in general, how does your day look like? Like maybe a weekday, and what all goes on, and how do you plan everything, and just a little bit.
Sure. So I think I have to give it to my parents. When I went to school, I developed two habits, or I was asked to develop two habits. One, of course, was before you go to bed, you pack your bag for the next day. You look at your
Yes.
timetable and pack your bag for the next day. And that's a habit that stayed with me till today. Before I go to bed, I look at my calendar for the next day, and I kind of like just have a visual, a view of how my day is going to go. And the second thing is, have enough thinking time. I mean, this is something that I picked up from my mentor. We as business leaders are always, in the middle of chaos and firefighting and handling situations. And we often don't give ourselves, most business leaders don't give themselves enough thinking time. So that's something that I have inculcated every morning. I start my day really early. I know it sounds like a bit crazy, but I
No,
do
no.
start my day very early, and I do spend the first and an hour and a half, 2 hours of the day in just reflecting. I mean, sometimes it could be just simple as reading a few blogs. It could be just getting myself more familiar with things, and something. It's different things, but I do give myself that 2 hours every morning to think, to reflect, to just broaden my own horizons and spectrum. And I have to say, those 2 hours and over maybe two or three cups of coffee, and that those 2 3 hours keep me very very energized for the whole day because the mind is completely refreshed. So I think those are the two things that are habits that I have picked up and I continue to
Stay
kind of
with
like
you.
build on. Like any other CEO or founder of a young startup, my day is chaotic. My calendars are thrown upside down on most days, and yeah, so it's once you get to work, it's just dealing with one situation after the other. It's dealing with a lot of issues, and that's the fun part. I think the whole energy of just doing trying to do more and doing a lot and then realizing you got to do more, that whole cycle is very exciting.
To this, I would ask you, what would you tell young entrepreneurs or people who are looking up to a dream or seeing a dream where they also want to start up something new, maybe in the sector of logistics and tech, but maybe not also? Like, what would your, uh, what do you say, like, idea, or what would your words be to those young entrepreneurs?
um, I think very simply, and I'm just such a fond I'm so fond of like solving for problems that that's exactly what I would tell anyone. So if you have one day said, I have a brilliant idea, please don't get started until and unless you can justify that people are worse off without your idea, or your idea makes people better off. It makes their life better off. It makes their business better off. So start always with the problem. Know the problem that you're solving. And if the problem that you're solving is this small, don't overcommit yourself to it. Be focused on just that much. But if the problem that you're solving is we're going to change the world, That's brilliant. People need to do that as well and then go all out in it. But don't lose sight of the problem and the size of that problem. And if
Correct.
you can't put your finger on the problem, please don't jump into being an entrepreneur just because it's cool or you have a cool idea. It's that's just what I would say.
Correct. One more question with regards to logistics and tech only. So I think logistics industry revolves around a lot on credit cycle and credit payments. So I think what my according to my understanding is that there might be a crunch or you might face some problems when you give it on these credit cycles. So do you face any problems, and if yes, then how do you deal with all these cash flow problems or maybe defaulting payments? How do you come across in this situation?
Yeah, look, as I mentioned earlier, this is a real issue, and it manifests. Most people, pay up on time. Sometimes they will pay up late, but they do pay up. I think in general, the ecosystem is good and they pay up on time, but you always have incidents where people are not paying up or they're defaulting or, for defaulting either willfully or just out of their own circumstances. Regardless, I think for us, we work with legal pay and, where we need to, take a tough stance, then we will take a tough stance with the help of legal pay. But in general, the idea is let's get it. And that is over 99.5% of the issues where we don't have credit issues. But there are always situations where you need to be tough and need to take tough calls and take tough measures, and that's where the legal options come in.
Yeah. And just a follow-up question to this is, like, I understand in logistics industries your relationships are also very important. So therefore to take a hard stern step against them could also be like a problematic situation later on. So do you think that lingers on, or maybe you can still expect business from those people?
Look, I think this is you don't see this problem in the West, but here, unfortunately, sometimes people, and especially when you're dealing with SMEs, people
Yeah.
take things personally because the individual is the business and the business is the individual, and the reaction to something like a tough stance is taken very personally and said, "Oh no, I'm not going to work." But I think India is maturing as a business market, as a business environment. And as there is more external capital coming in, there is more responsibility that every founder has. And, at the end of the day, you got to do what you got to do. I mean,
Correct.
if it means loss of business just because somebody is not paying you, then you may be pleasing somebody who owes you money, but hey, at the end of the day, you are also you need to protect the interest of your investors and your shareholders, and you can't ignore that. So I just feel it's important to be mindful that there are other interests and not just pleasing people is the easy solution, but in my view, not the right solution. You got to protect interests of the people that you work with.
Correct. I would come to my last question, wherein I think your insights have been very valuable as of now. And I think for our audience and for us as well. How do you think brands can balance between technology and also human empathy with AI coming into picture, and also managing all of it with the development of time, and how would that boost product development as well?
Yeah, excellent question. And I think the answer to that is to just understand what is AI. AI is built on machine learning, is built on deep data, etc. But at the end of the day, where are those data points coming from? the fact that AI can make you a recommendation, and there is generative AI, and I mean, there are two different kinds. There's predictive and there's generative. But the fact that it can make you a recommendation, it's basis on all the data points it's able to access at a speed that is faster than the human brain. And so it's important for us not to lose sight of it. AI is here to help us be more efficient. It's not making us unempathetic at all. It's just enabling a better decision. So when a doctor uses AI to prescribe or to get to the bottom of a problem, that is a benefit. So I think first of all, there is so much of misunderstanding around AI. People think AI is equal to robots. It's going to take your jobs. I'm not in the camp because people don't understand it and look at AI as something that makes you efficient. And here's my just a reference point to it. Before 1999, 2000, which is before the internet era, when internet came and it allowed you to search and access information in a seamless manner, did internet take away jobs? No, it did not. In fact, it created more jobs. And that's exactly the next this is the next tech revolution. The next big thing after internet is artificial intelligence. It's nothing more than enabling you to search and access things better. So I think if I strongly believe it's going to create new jobs. It's going to create more jobs. Internet
Correct.
created new jobs. AI adoption will create new jobs. So if people don't adapt it, then obviously they become redundant. People who could not adapt to the internet world, they've faded away. But people
Correct.
who adapted, hey, that's really what I think people need to do, is to adapt and see how they can get better leveraging a new resource available to them. So that's my view on AI and how we look at it at Pidge as well.
This is an amazing perceptive, I would say. And like I was saying, so since you said that AI makes things very efficient now, the efficiency is going to increase here. So generally, how would it help in a product development roadmap?
Yeah, look, when you're developing a product, you're also relying on a lot of deep data. Your ability to process that data, your ability to get meaningful insights from that data, your ability to access 1,000x more data that you possibly could, 10,000x more data than you possibly could, and get insights from that 10,000x data is what will make your product even better. Now, imagine if today you were to do a market research in a traditional way and you went and spoke to 10 respondents, all right, and you got insights from those 10 respondents and you started building your product on that. Imagine now if I gave you data points and feedback from 10 million respondents like that.
Yes.
Isn't your output going to be much better? It's because your insights are so much more deeper. And that's really how I think about leveraging AI to get more data points and to get them faster and to make the width and the depth at the same time uh, exponential. So yeah, I mean that's just how we look at it.
Thank you. Thank you for your amazing insights on AI also. This is an amazing perspective.
Thank
And
you.
I have been amazed and inspired with everything that you've talked about today. All the questions of logistics, tech, about you, I think has been inspiring to all of us listening and to our audience as well. Thank you so much for your time that you could spare for us. And we would love to have such discussions more if you want on some specific topics or anything of that sort. Would love to know your insights on the same.
Sure. I first of all, I want to thank you, Sari, for inviting me to your podcast. And secondly, I'm equally impressed with the insights or the insightful questions that you had on the logistics business. So it's been a real pleasure chatting with you. And Yeah, good luck, and we'll be more than happy to participate on diverse topics.
Correct. Okay. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much for
Thank you
your
very
time.
much. Thank
Thank
you.
you.